here. I was born in South Africa in 1933, and for a young white boy I had a pretty normal school to matric. University, became a civil engineer, but I grew up in a home of two people who were communists, my parents, and learnt that I have to respect people. Race was not important in our home. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to build houses and railways and roads and bridges for people. That was my dream. And then I discovered I could build for white South Africans, not black South Africans, not for people. So first you change the country, then you can be an engineer. And it took too long, so I never became an engineer again. How growing up as I did in World War II, where even white South Africa joined Britain and the other allies against Nazi Germany, against racism, against domination and control. And yet in South Africa we practiced all the very things that we were fighting against. And the people of Cuba could be struggling for freedom. Why couldn't our people? It was the right thing to do.
But you were white, they were not your people.
Yes, they were my people. All people are my people. This is what I'm trying to tell you. It's about justice, it's about equality, it's about respect for human dignity and life.
Denis Goldberg endured 22 years in a Pretoria jail as one of a handful of white political prisoners.
I don't know if I could take it now that I'm old, you know. I suppose if I had to endure it, I would. But you needed to be young to deal with it. And determined, you know, you weren't going to let them defeat you.
What did your parents think of you then?
Oh, my parents were very proud of me. The day I was sentenced to life imprisonment, my mother said that her life was fulfilled through me. I wasn't just her little boy anymore, I was her comrade. What we have to do as individuals is say, no, I'm not going to judge the book by its cover, the person by the skin color. I'm going to say, is this a person I could like? And if I don't have to love everybody, and I don't want to be loved by everybody, that would be a terrible burden. Really, it would be a burden. But I do have to be polite and courteous, so that we can get on and cohere as people of different cultural backgrounds who enrich each other.
Denis Goldberg, Ahmed Kathrada, this day, 50 years ago, you were sentenced to life imprisonment, and yet here you sit, free men, living in a brand new South Africa. What does it feel like, looking back 50 years? How did you feel standing there? Because Mandela is, in his words, saying he's prepared to die. You got the death sentence hanging over your head. He voiced that concern. You were the rest of those that were being accused and could follow suit. How did you feel when he said that?
I must confess that I knew what he was going to say because we'd all read the speech and we'd discussed it with him. But when he said it, I realized he was saying, hang them all, hang all of us. And I felt just a sense of elation to share this moment. It was such a moment of pride. You don't choose to be on trial for your life, you know. But to have it stated with such courage and elegance, I like to think of it as grace under fire.
Yeah.
And a great moment in my life, truly. And I think for all of us, there was no sense of fear.
And the instruction was very clear that I must dress you. It's a tie. Oh, yes.
You look like a sangoma.
Oh, wow.
Struggle stalwart Denis Goldberg has been honoured with a musical tribute in Cape Town. His Legacy Foundation is raising funds for a youth arts and culture facility for the less fortunate youth in Hout Bay.
And so my idea is, I've seen young people come out of school bubbling over with excitement. They get a sandwich, they get a cup of soup in the winter, and they make music. And they make it together.
So I'm grateful that I'm part of this celebrating his 85th birthday and fundraising for the House of Hope. He could have sat at home with his family or friends or people very close to him and had lunch or dinner, but he decided he wants to dedicate his life to the children of South Africa, and I'm very grateful to be part of that.
Proceeds of the concert will go to the Denis Goldberg Legacy Foundation's fund for the House of Hope project. Vanessa Kuna, SABC News, Cape Town.
My vision is an art and culture training centre where the young people and their parents of Hout Bay can come together through their creative abilities. And I would like people who want to support us to be part of it. And I see young people everywhere saying, we want to be together. They go to school together. They make music together. They dance together. They make love together. They make babies together. And this for me is a new South Africa. And this art and culture, I've seen people come together and enjoy their lives and grow as people.
Pardon me, please. Pardon me, please. Hold my hand, be my friend, don't close that door. Pardon me, please. Pardon me, please. Hold my hand, be my friend, don't close that door. The road is long, for peace and unity. The nights are long, the days are short. How can we go on like this? Mothers fighting, fathers crying, children dying in the sea. This road is long, trying to find the way. I ask myself, I ask the world, why there is so much hate? Show me some kindness, open your heart, give me a chance to live. Pardon me, please. Pardon me, please. Hold my hand, be my friend, don't close that door. Pardon me, please. Pardon me, please. Hold my hand, be my friend, don't close the door. I hope someday peace will prevail in the world. I've seen it all, still have some hope. We are all the same, one people. Pardon me, please. Pardon me. close that door. Pardon me, please. Pardon me, please. Hold my hand, be my friend. Don't close that door. Don't close that door. Don't close the door. Don't close the door. Don't close the door. Go see Sikelela Tina lusapho lwayo.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Dennis, for your love. Thank you for everything. May your soul rest in power.
Denis Goldberg, iqhawe lethu, ibhonga neqheya kwabebali limhlophe ngoba he went against his own race and said no to apartheid. Siyabulela tata. Mhla egwetywe ubomi wathi kunina wayenqunguphele. It's life and life is wonderful. Indoda enothando, enoxolo nomonde, idela kufa ngokwalo ngubana wena ukufulathela ibala lakhe. Itsho nomandela uqoba kazange kodwa wena wenje njalo. Thina singumzontsundu sisole imilomo eliwaka yokubulela Denis. Kwedini wancama usapho lwakho lincamela thina. You said people matter sithi ke abo ngoba wawuhleli no Walter, oSisulu, oMandela ndibala ntoni na. You were the only white man Denis. Minyaka emininzi yobomi bakho uzinikezele kubeni usiphathele inkululeko singabantu abamnyama. Kuthiwa isisila senkukhu sibonakala mhlali igquthayo noxa bekushilo xa bakho awukhange usilahle because in everything you do you always accommodate a black person. Ude athi nangona ilizwe lomzantsi Afrika lichabalala, he could never bring himself to vote against the ANC. Siyabulela tata. Silapha ngenxa yakho Denis. Dinanto inye ndiyithandayo ngawe tata, nangona isifo somhlaza sidlakaza, you still have a sharp mind and a sharper sense of humor. Thina kwaXhosa sithi lingaduduma ligqekreze kodwa lisokuze lindone kwaye liduduma lidlule mntakwethu. Indoda emthathela ingqalelo umuntu omnyama, rhanqalala lengqonyele ngoyiki ngokoyikiswa. You were the only white member of Umkhonto weSizwe that was arrested. Amandla, he says that he's encouraged by young people who say, enough is enough. We say to you, Siyabulela tata, long live Denis, long live.
I'm very honored to be the person to welcome you all on behalf of Denis Goldberg's family and trust to this online memorial. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has prevented the country honoring Denis through a state funeral. Fortunately, a bunch of incredible people have done incredible work over a short period to make this all happen. We want in particular to thank Glenn Gillis and his colleagues at Sea Monster, the Google South Africa team, and the SABC for collaborating with us to pull this off. Organizing an online memorial like this is a first for us all. We thank Ashley De Silva for the memorial video that was shown at the beginning of the program, Yvonne Chaka Chaka and Gareth Libber for the musical item, and Zameka Ngalwa of Imizamu Yetu's Ngoma Choir for the praise poem. Those virtually present with us today include Denis's son David and his family in the UK, family in New York, Joy and Joe, who have been his closest family in South Africa for about 2 decades, Denis's partner Deirdre, Denis's brother Alan and his niece and nephew Lindsay and Paul, the trustees of the Denis Goldberg Legacy Foundation Trust, and friends, comrades and admirers from South Africa, Germany, England, Scotland, and many other parts of the world. We extend a special welcome to people from the Hout Bay community, a community to which Denis devoted the last period of his life. We welcome you all and thank you for all the messages and actions of support and sympathy received over the last 8 days. Unfortunately, we are not able to read out all the messages that we received. We are, however, collecting and collating all the messages and will be posting them on the Trust website. Choosing the speakers for today's program was extremely difficult. Those chosen by the Memorial Central Committee, which consisted of David, Joe, and myself, represent different aspects of Denis's full and complicated life. I would now like to hand over to our first speakers, who are Denis's 3 grandchildren. There's Katie, who's his oldest. It's David's oldest daughter, and Denis's oldest grandchild. There's Katie Goldberg, her younger sister, and then there's Jack, who is the late Hillary's son. They are all sitting in different parts of London in the UK, but they have worked together to put this together. So, and David will be sitting in with them next to Katie so that you can at least see Denis's son, even if you can't hear him. So over to you, grandchildren.
Okay. When most young kids hear stories about their grandparents, they can't imagine them being young or voracious or mischievous, but it's the total opposite with Grandpa. Every crazy story he told you, you could absolutely picture without doubt, because he was always so fiery and so quick-witted. And the way he spoke was with the same passion and determination as you could imagine him having his whole life. When he got sick, it came as a huge shock to us all. He was indestructible, but his illness was just another hurdle to him, and he never stopped fighting and planning and fundraising. When he was told he had a matter of months to live, he wanted to get to work because time was running out. That was Grandpa. As his family, it's important for us to tell you about the side of him that wasn't in the news, how he was as a grandpa to us, the way he always joked with us, the way he encouraged us to work hard, the way he always wanted to play another round of cards with our dad, and the way he spoke of our Bobba and Jack's mum, Hilly, and how he always listened to our opinions and debated with us. No one got off lightly, as I'm sure you can imagine. Being so far away meant that our relationship was mainly by phone or email, or sharing a funny picture in our family WhatsApp group. He went through phases of favouring different emojis, and for a long time, the cool guy with sunglasses was his response to everything, which always made us laugh. He was the ultimate cool guy, after all.
Despite living at opposite ends of the globe, we have so many lovely memories of our time spent together with Grandpa. As younger children, when he lived in the UK, he was simply our grandpa. He'd cuddle and kiss us and let us all climb on his back at once. He came to our schools and told stories to our classmates about his time in prison, what he stood for, and the confiscated warm bread roll that motivated him to always eat the best thing on his plate first. In later years, we'd visit him as often as we could in Cape Town, going out for lots of meals together, talking about our lives and listening to his stories. We used to watch a video together called Coming Home about his release and return to the UK. And every time the shot of him cuddling his young grandchildren came on screen, he'd cry. He was this incredible and unstoppable force with a big soft spot inside. He was so proud of us, always wanting to show us off, and we will be forever proud of him too.
Not only will we mourn his grandchildren, son, and close relatives, but South Africa will have to say goodbye to another of its heroes. There have been so many touching tributes to Grandpa, which can only confirm the magnitude of high regard in which he was held by so many. A man who lived in the pursuit of social justice and equality for all, no longer in pain, who left the world a better place than when he entered it. He led an amazing life, a full life, and with so much reason to celebrate every second of it. Grandpa's legacy will live on and flourish, and we hope his passing will inspire everyone to not only continue his mission to rid South Africa's inequality, but to endeavour to always do the right thing, even if it's not the easy thing. Who knows what life holds after death, but to know he'll be looking down on David, Katie, Jane, our amazing extended family and I, reunited with our Bobba and mum, well, that's comforting. Because life is wonderful. Rest in power.
I would now like to hand over to President Cyril Ramaphosa. He needs no introduction.
It is said in the classics that when a great person dies, for years the light they leave behind them lies upon the paths of humanity. The comrade we are remembering today was a man of firm courage, of unwavering resolve, and of extraordinary humility. Despite his stature as a hero of our liberation struggle and our democracy, he was unassuming, humble, and kind. Isitwalandwe siaparankwe, as we refer to him, he loved his country, South Africa, and its people. He loved the African National Congress and surrendered his youth to supporting its mission. He never lost faith in the organization, nor did he renounce it even when he saw it falter and make many serious mistakes. With the devotion of a son and the patience of a father, he wanted to see the ANC thrive and prosper, to learn from its mistakes and to correct them. Even when it seemed that the organization was being torn apart, his unerring optimism that things will get better never failed him. His legacy must give us cause to reflect on the true meaning of devotion to one's country, on the importance of social and economic justice, on compassion to one's fellow men and women, and indeed on the very nature of freedom itself. During my private contemplations on the life of Comrade Denis in the days following his passing, it came to me that much has and will be said about Denis Goldberg, the MK combatant, the political prisoner, and the fearless social activist. But what about Denis Goldberg, the person? I wanted to know what got to drive this young white man, born to parents of political conscience, but into white privilege in South Africa. What drove him to surrender first his youth and then his entire life to the cause of the oppressed majority in South Africa? What was it that propelled him along the difficult and often solitary and dangerous path of social justice, even once democracy came? I came across an engagement he had at Oxford University 5 years ago, where he recounts a train journey with a Palestinian academic and activist he had just met. As the train headed slowly from Manchester to London, they spoke about their lives, experiences, and attitudes and how similar they were. When he was asked how he survived harsh prison life, he said, "You survived because you had to survive. You've done what you've done because you had to do it." Close quotes. There can be no greater call to arms at the memorial for Isitwalandwe Siaparankwe Denis Goldberg than this one, and no greater time to make it. The ANC, the movement to which he dedicated and devoted his life, faces perhaps its greatest test of leadership since 1994, We're in the grip of a global pandemic. Our economy is at a standstill. The lives and the livelihoods of millions of our people are at stake. The plight of the weak, the vulnerable, and the poor must now be our foremost preoccupation. Now, perhaps as never before, we are called upon to do what has to be done, because we know we have to do it. We must do, as leaders and members of the ANC and as citizens of South Africa, what we have to do. Denis Goldberg believed the greatest threats to our freedom are poverty and inequality. He said it is not enough to dream what our country must become. We must act to make that dream come true. In other words, we must do what has to be done. He was a man and a leader of unquestionable integrity, reminding us that leadership is a weighty responsibility. At a time when our people, the entire African continent, and indeed the world looks to its leaders for reassurance, we must indeed do what has to be done with the utmost integrity and moral conscience. The hardships we currently face are significant and will exact a heavy toll on our people and on our country. We will have to rebuild our shattered society, transform our economy, and restore our collective fortunes as a people. Our people will rely on their ANC to lead them through this time of great peril. We must build consensus, forge compacts, and unite in action. We must listen to our people and to their true servants. It is the ANC who speaks for the poor, the weak, and the oppressed. It is Denis Goldberg's ANC whose progressive and pro-poor policies have transformed South Africa from a society founded on racial exclusion, which he fought against, to a democracy founded on the human rights for all, which he supported fiercely. Now is the time for Denis Goldberg's ANC to remain united, to reassert its commitment to its mission, and to continue to renew itself. So when we speak of Denis Goldberg, let us not relegate him to a long, long lost past. He is present with us. Let us speak of him as one of a distinguished and unbroken line of committed and principled cadres and leaders of the African National Congress, a line that endures to this day. Let the ANC of Denis Goldberg, Nelson Mandela, Albertina Sisulu, Lillian Ngoyi, Walter Sisulu live, and it should lead as well. On behalf of the leadership and the membership of the African National Congress, I salute this great South African, and I thank him for the extraordinary service to his people and to the country. For years and generations to come, the Denis Goldberg story will continue to be told, and it will continue to inspire all those who hear it to act to make the South Africa dream come true. We want to thank Denis Goldberg's family for the sacrifice that they too made to make the South Africa that we live in to come true. They suffered immensely as well. And we pay tribute to them, and we thank them for having surrendered Denis Goldberg to the passion of his life, the struggle for freedom for the people of South Africa. Farewell, Istwalandwe. Farewell, Siaparangwe. All that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity. I thank you.
Okay. Colin Govender is our website designer, but today he will make some remarks as both Denis's fellow ANC member in the Western Cape and also one of Denis's personal friends. Colin?
Good afternoon, Denis Goldberg family, Comrade President Cyril Ramaphosa, Comrade Elder Andrew Mlangeni, Comrade Elder Albie Sachs, friends, fellow South Africans, and people across the globe. It is a great privilege and honor to say a few words about Denis Goldberg on behalf of the ANC and as his friend. I have 4 minutes, but I must tell you that after the last time I spoke on a platform regarding Denis Goldberg, he said to me, "Colin, I believe in constructive criticism. You cannot give people 5 minutes to speak at an ANC event. They will always speak more than 5 minutes." Anyhow, here goes. Denis contributed significantly to my political education, which was actually rather more of a consciousness raising than political education. Comrade President, there are many others in the ANC and the broader movement who are much more qualified to speak about Denis Goldberg than I am. How do I mention all the names of so many others that were instrumental in Denis's life and the struggle they all gave their lives for, without forgetting someone or not having the time to mention everyone's name? That is a very difficult task, especially when these men and women, Denis Goldberg's comrades, are towering giants of human rights. My name is Colin Govender, and spending time with Denis Goldberg gave me much insight. As a result of him sharing local and world history with me trying to debate him, of which I almost thought I won at times, only to learn that the purpose of debate does not only have to be about winning, but rather also about providing and sharing information that one might not have had. I also learned a lot from him when we both shared tearful experiences, jokes, and moments of complete seriousness. As an ANC member, Comrade President, you will appreciate that Denis Goldberg spoke, but more so, actioned truth to power always. And for him, no topic was prohibited. He was also an engineer who could build bridges, but because of his fight for freedom for all, he built bridges of another kind, the type of bridges that stand the test of time, unbreakable bridges for everyone, and powerfully inclusive bridges for all to cross any time they wish to. But is this not typical of the Goldberg family for generations, Comrade President? Certainly, the legacy of the Goldberg family's commitment to South Africa and humanity is etched into our planet's DNA. Denis Goldberg was a selfless, fearless, and highly principled human being. Comrade President, his principles are the principles of the ANC. Not only has Denis Goldberg significantly contributed to the foundation of the new South Africa, he has also moved the world forward in the vanguard for equality and dignity for all. We express deep gratitude to Denis Goldberg for his unwavering contributions to the emancipation of South Africa and its people. I will now share a fairly recent quote from Denis Goldberg. Open quote, "There are still nearly half the people who have neither jobs nor land from which to make a living, and there's still the oppression that comes with such poverty." Close quote. With that said, I would like you all to now please do me a favor. I'm going to say something and then say Denis Goldberg's name. When I say Denis Goldberg's name, you join in saying his name with me. However, Google Meet will only broadcast one person's reply. So Debbie, if you could please assist. Humanist, freedom fighter, High Command Umkhonto we Sizwe, and Rivonia trialist, Denis Goldberg. Political prisoner for 22 years, professor and rugby player, Denis Goldberg. ANC Gabby Shapiro Branch Human Rights Legacy Award, Cross of the Order of Merit, Germany, and Iset Walandwe Siaparenkwa, Denis Goldberg. House of Hope,
Denis
House
Goldberg.
of Hope, and House of Hope, Denis Goldberg. Denis Goldberg is part of the best of humanity for all time. He is 48 years older than me, and he enjoyed the writings of Bertolt Brecht, which is still very relevant today, and to those of younger generations. I now close with a translation of one of Denis Goldberg's favorite poems by Brecht, titled To Posterity, or To Those Who Come After. We who wanted to make a world where man would no longer be an oppressor to man, a world where man would be kind to man, did not ourselves have time for kindness. But you who come after, when you think about us, think about of us with forbearance. Viva Denis Goldberg, viva! Amakashile Umkhonto.
In this last period, Denis used to say that his illness negatively affected all parts of his body, except that there was one part that was not affected, and that was his voice. So I will now ask our techies to play a short video in which Denis himself talked about his commitment to his beliefs and how they affected him and those close to him.
But even if I died in prison, our struggle would be successful. Never gave up hope, never ever, and have never regretted a day of that life in struggle. Having taken the stand that our lives were less important than the goal of freedom, and that the trial intended by the state to show that we were dreadful terrorists, we would show that apartheid was a system of racism by law and force of arms, and that the terrorism was that of the apartheid state. We succeeded. And so the trial was great. What did I feel in prison? Why is it taking so damn long? But it's going to happen. And after 16 years, when we were allowed access to newspapers, I could see it coming to an end. What an encouraging way of living, and of hearing from anti-apartheid people getting Christmas cards and so on. It was a tremendous support. We knew we were not alone. So how was it in prison? Do you want my honest opinion? I don't recommend life in prison to anybody. But we came out of it stronger. I took 3 university degrees and half a law degree, absolutely convinced that what we had done was right. And even if I died in prison, there's a contradiction there, but even if I died in prison, our struggle would be successful. Never gave up hope, never ever, and have never regretted a day of that life in struggle.
When you consider what you and your great friend Nelson Mandela did give up, huge swathes of your life, when you look at South Africa today...
I'll tell you what I gave up. The happiness of my children. All of our children suffered, really and truly. Why my father? What about our wives left alone to bring them up? And for my black comrades, I have to say they had social solidarity. Well, whites in South Africa, no. Our kids really suffered. They really did. My daughter found it very painful. My son, a different personality, managed far better. But all of our kids suffered. That is such a regret. Maki Mandela is here. She's overcome it now as a mature woman, can talk about it. But I know what pain she went through. And so what did I give up? My freedom. You live it day by day, filling the day as constructively as possible. And I came out of prison a much stronger person.
Denis Goldberg was often referred to as a legend. His first wife, Esme, teased him that he was a leg end. So I now ask another leg end, Andrew Mlangeni, who is the only surviving Rebonia trialist, to say some words to us about Denis, his fellow trialist and member of MK.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. President, family of Denis Goldberg, his friends and everybody. Usually, it is not proper to speak after the president has spoken. But I suppose on days such as this one, where we have come together to pay tribute to a lost comrade, it is permitted to speak even after the president has spoken. I want to repeat what I said to the other day when I spoke about Comrade Denis Goldberg. Excuse me. That Denis Goldberg was and is a white man, white person. Denis Goldberg, as a white person, enjoyed all the privileges, the rights, and everything that the white men enjoyed in South Africa. I will always repeat that because I think it is the truth. But Comrade Denis felt he could not enjoy all those so-called nice things that are being enjoyed by white men in South Africa. And Denis used to say, Comrade Andrew, how can I enjoy what other white people are enjoying when you, a proper South African, black South African, is not enjoying this? I can't enjoy it. And that is one reason why Comrade Denis joined the struggle for freedom, joined the African National Congress and Umkhonto weSizwe in order that you should make a contribution in destroying this evil policy of the National Party, apartheid policy, which was also declared a crime against humanity by the United Nations. Comrade Denis was not forced to join the African National Congress. He was not forced to join Umkhonto weSizwe. But his conscience forced him to do that. He was forced by his conscience. He says, I can't enjoy these things when my fellow black comrades in South Africa are denied these rights. We couldn't. I think we have to congratulate Comrade Denis for that great sacrifice that he has made in order to help South Africa to be where it is today, under a proper and very good leadership of Comrade Denis Goldberg, Cyril Ramaphosa. Denis has sacrificed, comrades, for us to be where we are today. We want to thank his family for giving us Denis. I know I met his mother during the case when we were facing death sentences in the Rivonia trial. Met his mother, very old lady, very strong lady, strong woman. And I think Denis took after her mother, his mother. Very strong woman. Comrade Denis was an intellectual. He was an engineer. He could have joined any university, go and teach, and get a good salary. But he forsake all those things and said, no, I'm going to join the African National Congress and Umkhonto weSizwe to destroy this policy. He was not fighting against the black man. He was not fighting against the white man. No. We were fighting against the policy of apartheid, comrades. And that is what Comrade Denis was doing. Even when he was based in London, Comrade Denis continued to do the work of the African National Congress and that of Umkhonto weSizwe, MK. Not only here at home, but even, as I say, overseas where he was living. Comrade Denis sacrificed his family, sacrificed his life, his entire youth in order to do the work of the African National Congress. We thank him for that. Comrade Denis, as I said earlier, he was not forced to join the struggle for freedom. He was not forced by anybody. His conscience forced him. He was a Democrat. Comrade Denis believed that the views of the majority must prevail. After our sentence in the Rivonia trial, our lawyers came down to Robben Island to come and consult us on the issue of what do you call it again? Issue of appeal. We, as usual, the policy of apartheid had separated us. Comrade Denis was somewhere in Pretoria prison, and we, the black prisoners, were on Robben Island. So the lawyers came down to Robben Island and questioned us on whether we would like to appeal. We said, no, we are not going to appeal. If you appeal, anything can happen. We were, of course, prepared even for the death penalty, as much as Goldberg was himself prepared. All of us were prepared for it. And Comrade Denis, when the lawyers saw him, and the reason why I say he's a Democrat, is that he said, I cannot take a decision alone whether we should appeal the case or not. But I'll accept what the comrades on Robben Island agree upon. If they say no appeal, let it be so. We are not going to appeal. And indeed, we decided not to appeal. Comrade Denis supported that fully. I hope his soul will rest in peace. And I'm sure the comrades are waiting for him. He will find that they have probably formed some branches of the ANC. and so on and so forth. And I have no doubt in my mind that Comrade Dennis will join one of those branches. Thank you very much. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. President, for the contribution you have made about Comrade Dennis. You have made a better contribution than I could make, although I was with him in the case. But your speech covered everything that one would have wanted to say, or one could have said. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Albie Sachs, knew Denis from their childhood days. The two remained friends and comrades throughout, and we are proud to have Albie as the patron of the Denis Goldberg Legacy Foundation Trust. So over to you, Albie.
One of Denis's qualities was his great sense of humor, and I think he would have been very amused to hear myself and Andrew being referred to as comrade elders. I've been a comrade judge, now I'm a comrade elder. And I'm going to speak about three things: courage, sacrifice, and continuity in the life of Denis Goldberg. He was the bravest of us all by far, by far. 1960s, everything underground, fight back, and Denis disappears. We don't ask questions, he vanishes. Now, we were talkers, we were all talkers, but none of us went deep into the underground. We carried on with our work, functioning as well as we could. Denis gave himself up completely to the struggle for freedom, liberation in South Africa. And he was working in one of the most difficult areas, providing the ordnance, it was called, weapons for the armed struggle. And his courage didn't desert him even after he'd been captured. There was a moment when Esme, his wife, the Boba who's been referred to, brilliant, wonderful, warm-hearted physiotherapist, was totally distraught because she'd been to the police to fetch Denis's laundry, and she found his lumber jacket, and it had 2 holes in it. It was partly torn, it had blood on it, and she thought he was dead. And she used what weapons she had. Her weapons were her tears. She went to the police commander, and she cried and cried and cried, and this man who could torture men to death didn't know how to deal with the tears of a woman. And he said, "Okay, I'll let you see him." And she saw Denis. And what had happened was, after being imprisoned, Denis had tried to escape, and he had escaped. Using his engineering knowledge, he found a way of, when the key was locked, he put something in there, the key, the lock didn't lock. He got out, he got over the wall, and he had to put on a lumber jacket with 2 holes in for his eyes to put his head through the barbed wire. And that was when the blood came on. And he got out into the street and he escaped. Unfortunately, being in a white prison, one of the white warders, one of the white prisoners called the warders, and he was caught. But he was courageous all the way through. Sacrifice. You've heard the word sacrifice. I don't think Denis ever felt that he had sacrificed anything. Now, he had sacrificed something. It wasn't the sacrifices that he made that's important. It's the sacrifices he refused to make. He refused to sacrifice his passion for freedom and liberty. If he'd gone on to become a successful engineer, making lots of money out of big projects, living well, giving that up wasn't a sacrifice. But to live well in a country torn apart, with the majority being oppressed, with massive injustice, that would mean sacrificing his dignity, his pride, his compassion, his humanity, his sense of what it means to be a human being in the mid-20th century. And he wouldn't sacrifice his dignity just for the sake of money, for the sake of some kind of material power. It was odd that was in prison. We read the Bible. What profiteth the man that he gains the whole world and loses his soul? And Denis never lost his soul right until the end. It was that soul that was so meaningful, that's so special in Denis Goldberg. continuity. We attended so many burials of our comrades, massacred, killed, poisoned, blown up. And always we spoke about picking up the spear, picking up the spear, picking up the spear. And we will pick up Denis's spear, but the spear that we spoke about in those days of armed struggle is not the spear we're picking up today. We don't want a spear that's going to stab and draw blood and plunge into human bodies. We want the spear of illumination, the spear of justice. In this moment of the COVID-19, we want the scientific knowledge that will bring us the vaccine that will protect humanity, but we don't want the pharmaceutical companies to fight over who's going to get the copyright, who's going to hold it, who's going to make profits out of it. We don't want this country or that country or the other. We discover the importance of our humanity, a vaccine for all people. We discover as our planet is being depleted and threatened, we can't live on our own. That is what Denis's life was about. We don't live on our own. We live in societies, in communities. We live with and for and together with others. So that's the spear that we pick up when I offer my love to David, to the grandchildren, to Deirdre, who was such a wonderful, marvelous companion to Denis in his last years, to Joy, his niece, who's been such a terrific friend and support of Denis all this time. I think of how much Denis meant to all of us, this brave, brave, brave person, full of soul, full of compassion, practical, dedicated, a beautiful example of what our humanity is capable of producing. Thank you, Denis. And bye-bye, Denis. It's hard to say farewell to you.
The next two speakers are speaking to us from beyond South Africa. The first is South African Guy Burger, who was imprisoned in Pretoria Central for 5 years alongside Denis. Guy now lives and speaks today from Paris and is where he is UNESCO's Director for Freedom of Expression and Media Development.
Greetings, everybody. I spent 2 long years in Pretoria prison in the 1980s with Denis. That was a fragment of the 22 years taken from him. My sentence was, as he said, a comparative parking ticket. But it was enough for me to get to know the heart of the man with a giant heart. Denis took real care of me in prison. He negotiated for me when the prison warders prosecuted me for reading a newspaper. He taught me how to make a dessert out of jelly powder, rusks, water, and peppermint-flavored toothpaste. He tried to teach me guitar without success, but occasionally I would accompany him on a recorder to render tunes of freedom songs. He shared with me the joke, what is the difference between the law and a cat? Well, the first has pauses at the end of its clauses, and a cat has the reverse. But Denis's humor aside, it was particularly tough for him to be in prison. The other Rivonia life sentence prisoners were together on Robben Island, and Denis was alone in Pretoria with a company of other political prisoners, yes, but people who would also eventually go out. Myself, David Kitson, Jeremy Cronin, Raymond Suttner, David Rabkin, and others. We cycled out of the system. Denis stayed behind because a life sentence under apartheid meant life. Well, anyone would get depressed as the decades wear on, and there's no clear sign of getting out of that physical and spiritual confinement. Denis suffered a lot in prison, including terrible migraines. But even when he was down at heart, he did keep up his spirit, and that helped to reinforce morale in prison. He never wavered about the righteousness of the cause of liberation from racism, oppression, and poverty. Later, when Denis and I were both long out of Pretoria Maximum Security Prison, I interviewed him for a magazine. It was in 1991. We went to a site just past Camps Bay in Cape Town, where some 30 years earlier, Denis had risked testing explosives against the rock face on the coast. He knew well at the time that he was also risking his family life and the well-being of his wife Esme and children David and Hillary. A terrible choice. He consciously chose for the greater good. The cost of that commitment became painfully real for him, as it was, of course, for the other Rivonia trialists. In Denis's case, he told me in prison once how his daughter Hillary, although 5 years old at the time of his arrest, started sucking her thumb in response to the departure of her father. In such small things, the pain of an imprisoned parent can be understood. Yet Denis's 22 years in jail, along, of course, with that of countless of others, helped to underline the abomination of apartheid. It also specifically helped to reinforce the remarkability of superior non-racialism as the true antithesis to white racism and exploitation, a morality we should never forget. Denis behind bars was what people sometimes call a mensch, in the sense of somebody embodying Ubuntu. He never lost that quality. He was a man with a giant heart. Before, during, and after jail, he had a giant heart. He was himself a living house of hope. He is himself a living house of hope. Thank you, Denis.
Okay, our final speaker is in Germany. Tina German was an active member of the anti-apartheid movement for many years before she met Denis. Once they'd met, they started working together in the 1990s when she was the lead person in the organization Exile Cultural Coordination. A close friendship grew out of that collaboration.
Dear Mr. President, dear David, and dear family Goldberg, since Denis's work in South Africa is being recognized today so extensively, I would like to take this opportunity to honor his role as the international ambassador for peace and reconciliation. We met in 1995, each other for the first time in a cafe in Düsseldorf, where we agreed to organize lecture tours for his story to be told to the people of Germany and beyond. This is where his impressive career began as an ambassador and bridge builder between South Africa and Germany, with additional fringe trips to many countries around the world. The result being that he tirelessly spent the last 25 years of his life bringing the unique history of his people closer to the international community. The lesson from his story and the unconditional commitment to the equal dignity of all people shaped Denis's attitude throughout his life. After his release from prison, he traveled to his exiled family in London. From the ANC headquarters there, he was sent around the world as a political ambassador. As witness to the horrors of apartheid, he sought support worldwide, all the way to the United Nations in New York. Denis was constantly preoccupied with the heavy burden that his country still has to bear. Millions of people who for decades had no access to decent education, work, healthcare, economic and cultural development. The people that were for generations denied human dignity faced the privileged white minority. How to overcome this incredible history and heritage? In response, Denis, in his beautifully pragmatic way, founded the organization Community Heart. The letters of the word heart standing for health, education, and reconstruction training. The organization was initiated in England and shortly afterwards expanded to Germany. It has since supported many projects with generous international donations, small and large, and has gathered support from Germany and further afield. Amongst the many projects, Denis introduced Community Heart, where women's shelters, natural science buses, libraries, mobile AIDS clinics, violence prevention, and as well the vibrant Kronberg Music Academy in Outbreak. In Germany, Denis reached out to many people, including politicians and influential figures throughout cultural and civil society. In schools, universities, cultural centers, at congresses, and in discussions with politicians, he was always ready to explain, convey, and reconcile. With very convincing arguments and a great wealth of knowledge, with patience and an unforgettable humor, he motivated an infinite number of people to think and act for themselves, as well to communicate with each other to fight for human rights throughout the world. He has received numerous international awards and medals, including the Order of Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany, for his efforts to liberate his country and for his work in the field of human rights. All these trips around the world, Denis has drawn up an impressive resume, imprinting his legacy into the world through the Denis Goldberg House of Hope. It is through education, specifically arts and culture, that Denis recognized a powerful tool to rebuild a nation. We are mourning the loss of a great friend who has found his way into so many hearts around the world. Denis, we miss you dearly.
Denis's will states that he wanted 2 poems read at his funeral. Both poems are by Bertolt Brecht. Instead of having them on this memorial, we're posting them on our website. Please take the time to go and look on the website for two poems that express who Denis was and what he believes in. And then I'm the final speaker in this memorial. For those of you who've been wondering, my name is Debbie Budlander, and I run the Denis Goldberg Legacy Foundation Trust and the Denis Goldberg House of Hope. Anyone who has visited Denis's house will have seen the colorful house full of paintings and other art that he has collected over his life or over his post-prison life. In Denis's eyes, arts and culture is probably the most powerful vehicle for bringing people together. He founded the Denis Goldberg Legacy Foundation Trust to give momentum to that vehicle, especially for the children and youth across the different communities of Hout Bay. The Trust's core project is the Denis Goldberg House of Hope, an arts and culture education center that will be built on the grounds of the Hout Bay Museum. Denis's large art collection will be housed there, as well as an exhibition celebrating his life and contribution. We will also make the venue available and use it ourselves to provide opportunities for the young people of Hout Bay to express themselves in all artistic disciplines. Denis lived long enough to see the Trust secure sufficient funding to complete phase 1 of construction of the House of Hope. We hope to start building once the lockdown has eased sufficiently. But Denis was impatient to get things done, and so we did not wait for our building to be there to organize holiday programs, hip-hop classes, outings, competitions, participation in the Cape Cultural Collective's Junior Rosa Choir, and a range of other activities under the Denis Goldberg House of Hope's banner. We thank all those who have partnered with us to do this. And now we remain committed to ensuring that Denis's dream is fully realized. We hope that many of you will support and accompany us on this mission after we say our sad farewells to Denis. When Denis was first diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, he commented that he was now in the airport departure lounge, but was hoping for a delay. Fortunately for all of us, his departure was delayed longer than expected. But now he is finally, to use his own term, shuffled off to Buffalo. As Denis would say further, I ask all potential supporters of Denis's dream of the House of Hope, have you brought your checkbook? Finally, we will have a short poem composed a few days ago by Jack, Denis's grandson, whom you heard earlier, and Jack will read it for us. After that, we will listen to the national anthem sung by Imizamo Yetu's Ingoma Choir, which Denis supported and enjoyed so much. But first, I want to thank you all, wherever you are, for being together with us to celebrate the wonderful life of Denis Goldberg. Thank you.
Envision the future as all those that did before, yet remember and recall the journey. With the table towering over all below, arts and culture, Hout Bay is yearning. A house of warmth and with a welcoming nature, providing a haven for the free and in need. Let us continue upwards for all South Africans, a house of hope and humanity, indeed. Let freedom reign and diffuse across the veldt. The winter of life has called. As Denis pursued his unending ambitions, the spirit of Hout Bay shall not fall. The symbol of strength the sentinel is, protecting all that call the bay their home. Chapman's Peak winds its magic around to the south, connecting all how South Africa has grown. The Cape of Good Hope sings of her history and culture. The sun never has set on her beauty. A glorious human achievement freedom is, House of Hope out of the ashes of cruelty. Stunning South Africa is clearly imperfect. Mandela still whispers his cause. There was 2 of the 8 left, now only 1, in a true rainbow nation for all. I am not done yet, Denis had explained. Overcoming apartheid is ongoing. A legend, Invictus, now up there overlooking his House of Hope, sat aloft, pain-free and glowing. I am the master of my fate, a wise man once said, art and culture can provide a home. I am the captain of my soul, he proclaimed to the world. The House of Hope, Denis's capstone.